In this example, we're going to take a look at a couple of interesting things. Vlookup tables, very handy function. Two-way data tables. We're going to talk about some probability. So let's get going. We are doing ordering with quantity discounts at Sam's Bookstore. So Sam's Bookstore, with many locations across the U.S., places orders for all the latest books and then distributes them to the individual stores. Sam needs a model to help order the appropriate number of a title. For example, Sam plans to order a new popular hardback novel which sells for $30. It can purchase anywhere this book from the publisher, but due to discounts, the unit cost for all the books depends on the number ordered. Specifically, if the number is less than 1,000, the cost is $24. After each 1,000, the cost drops $23 for 1,000, $22.25 for 2, $21.75 for 3, and $21.30 above that. And that's the lowest possible cost. So, for example, if Sam orders 2,500 books, the total cost is 2,500 times $22.50 for $55,625. Sam is very uncertain about the demand for this book and estimates demand can be anywhere from 500 to 4,500 units. Also, as with most hardback novels, this one will eventually come out in paperback. Therefore, if Sam's got any hardbacks left when the paperbacks come out, he has to put them on sale for $10, at which price he believes that any leftovers would be sold. How many copies of this novel should Sam order from the publisher? Okay, so if we go into model here, we will see that I've got some stuff set up for us. And so one of the big things right up in the top is we've got our quality discount structure right here. And so we're going to come back to this because we're going to use this as a table. So our regular price is $30, our leftover price is $10, and so we have a couple of different things. We have our decision variable, 2,500 copies, that's what we're going to order, and now we have, this is our uncertain quality. This will be in green, this is demand, and so we don't quite know what the demand's going to be. So we're just throwing a number in there for now. Okay, so what we need to do now is we have to calculate out our model. And then once we have the model set up, we'll do a two-way data table, and then we'll do some probability analysis. So as we look at this, units that are going to be sold at the regular price. Now this is going to, if we look at it, so if we order 2,500 and the demand is 2,000, how many are we going to be able to sell? Well, obviously, if demand is 2,000 and we have 2,500 books, we're going to sell 2,000 of them. Now, if I go and I change this and say my order quantity is 1,500 and demand is 2,000, how many am I going to sell? Well, now I'm not going to sell 2,000 because I don't have 2,000 to sell. I can only sell 1,500. And so how are we going to code this in? Because we want this to be as automated as possible. So we're going to use the min function. And min returns the smallest number of a set. And so we're going to say we want that cell, and we want that cell, and then this will spit out what the smallest of those two numbers are. So if we go back to 2,500, you'll see that we're selling a total of 2,000 books. Okay, so next how many units are we going to sell at the leftover price? Well, this is now we're going to need a logical statement in here because we need Excel to not make a choice for us, but it has to query some data. Because if demand's 2,000, the order quantity is 2,500, well, we're going to end up selling 500 at the discount price. Because we have 2,500, we'll take 2,000 away, and it's all done. But what happens if we go back and say, okay, well, I'm only ordering 1,500 books. How many books am I going to sell at the leftover price? Well, none, because I still have demand for 500 books. So what I have to do here at this point is I have to use what's called an if statement. It checks a condition and then returns one value if it's true, one value if it's false. So the logical test, and this is what I love about Excel, it pops up all the little help here. So if you forget how a function's formatted, it tells you. So we're going to run our logical test. Well, our logical test is going to be, is my order quantity greater than my demand? And then if that is true, So if my order quantity is greater than my demand, what I'm going to do is I'll take my order quantity and subtract my demand. Okay. And then if that's false, which means that my order quantity is greater than my, how do I write this again? My order quantity isn't greater than the demand. There we go. So if it's false, which means that my demand is higher than my order quantity, that is going to be a 0. Okay, so as we look at these equations, one of the things is we have to sit there, we can click on this and see the colored cells that makes everything kind of work. Now, we're going to get to this when we talk about indexing cells because we got a couple different ways to lock them in. One of these ways is called a range name, and the reason I'm bringing it up now is because for these equations, it's sometimes easier if you got a range name, so instead of the cell names popping up, that we name the cell something, it's easier for us to see what the equation is going to be. Now, a really easy way to do this is what we're going to do is I'm going to create a bunch of range names for all of these variables. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all these. I'm going to hit Control to select the other ones. Oops, I didn't want to get unknown quantity. So that, Control, okay. So now I've selected all these, and the reason I selected them is in the right-hand side here. These are all the cells that I'm going to be using. Left-hand side, all the names. So we're going to go into formulas, and we've got this thing called Create from Selection. So now, and the names are in the left column because all my names are here. I'm going to hit OK. So what did I do? What just happened? So you notice if I go to any of these cells, you see how it says G12? That's the name. The name of that cell is G12. And so when I drag that down, it would become G13, or if I drag it left or right, H13. So now if I look at this one here, notice the name is now regular price, which is, it drew it from that cell there. Put the underscore in because it can't have spaces in the coding. So all these cells now have that name. So if I look at that, and I start and go equal, and I can do regular price, I start to type it in. This little thing pops up that is showing that is just the defined name. That's what that little symbol there means. If I hit tab, it fills it in. So regular price, it brings over that 30. And if I do equals and click on B5, notice it comes in, it says equals regular price. Now it is still also B5, which will bring it over too. Now when I do the equals B5, it actually brings over the formatting. That's okay though. We could change that. If I actually right click on that and go copy, highlight those, go paste special. Under this paste formatting, all it does is it reformats the thing. Okay, so why did I do that? Let's go back here. We look at that thing, that formula right as it is. That, just looking at it, we can figure it out. It's cell names. But, now let's go and redo it now that I've given the cells range names. So if my order quantity is greater than my demand, well then I want to, if that's true, I want to take my order quantity minus my demand, and if it's false, I'll do 0. We've got the exact same thing as we've done before, except, now if you're going back to look at this, or if you hand it off to a coworker or a friend, it's really easy to see what's going on, because it's all named out. And we can go back and change it in this one too, and we can say the minimum of demand or order quantity. So I really, really like range names, and I use them a lot because it makes things for me a little bit easier. Now something else you can do is, we've got this table. So I'm going to highlight this entire table, and we're going to call it, quantity underscore discount. Okay, so now that table has name associated with it too. Okay, so revenue. So how are we going to do the revenue? Well, the revenue is going to be the number that we sell at regular price times the regular price plus the number that we sell at leftover price times the leftover price. So 45,000. Once again, we can go back in here, and it's all in words now. It's really easy to see. Now, cost is, this one's a little bit different. because now our cost is going to depend on what value that we have. Now, we can, okay, well, I'm ordering 1,500, which means that, okay, I've ordered at least 1,000, so it'll be 23 piece. Problem is if that changes, we want it to be able to change with it. So we need a new function. Very, very handy one, Vlookup. So Vlookup looks for a value in the leftmost column, and then returns it from whatever row you specify. So the one thing with Vlookup, it's always going to be whatever your leftmost in the table, that's what we're going to be looking up. So in this case, our lookup value. So what I want to do is, my lookup value is going to be my order quantity, and then my table array. That's where I'm going to be looking up the data. And so that would be this here. Now notice, since I've given it a name, highlighted it, quantity discount, that is my name of my matrix, which is great. So column index. This is basically what data you want it to return. So if I ended up putting 1 in here, it's going to give that first column, which is what we're looking up, which isn't too useful. So 1, 2. I want that second column. Okay, and the last thing is true or false. Approximate match, exact match. So if I put in false or 0, it would look that up. It isn't going to find what we're looking for because there isn't an exact value there. So we want the approximate value, or true, or 1. Both mean the same thing. Now what that's going to do is it's going to start looking down here, 1,500, okay, well, 0 is greater than that, 1,000 is greater than that, 2,000 is bigger than 1,500, so we're just going to drop back to this 1,000 and pull that number out. So if I actually hit that down, $23, so there we go. Let's boost this up to, say, 3,999, and it brings it up to 22. We'll put that out too, so 2175. So because I didn't hit the magic number of 4,000, and so there we go, 4,000 trips to $21. So let's put that back at our 2,500, $22.50 a book. Well, that's what the cost of 1 is, and so then what we have to do is we'll take that and then we'll multiply it by the number of books that we ordered. Okay, so there we go. So the cost in this case would be $55,625. Let's get rid of 2 decimal places there. We don't need it. So obviously our profit is going to be revenue minus cost. And so that would give us a profit of $9,375. Okay, so now we've set up the model. In the next video, we will go over how to do the two-way data tables, talk about probability.